Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivajaka Sata Sri Srimad Chidandi Goswami Shil A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivajaka Sata Sri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Jai Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Jai Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Jai Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're going to read from Srimad Bhagavatam. Thank you everyone for wearing your mask. That means that I don't have to wear my mask. Anyway, and I'm staying some distance too, okay, see? Good. Hare Krishna. It's been a while since I've sat here. Months. Pandemic. Anyway, we're still not out of the woods by any chance, we're still in it. And we have to keep careful and safe, because you never know how it will affect you. I mean, we've been very fortunate that although there's been one casualty, one devotee who left his body with this, because he had many other problems, but still, this was the tipping point. So, and we think we're all healthy, and we can, but it's not always like that. So let's not take chances. It's a simple thing. Wear a mask, keep social distancing. It's not a big deal. It's not like there was an interesting little video circulating in German, and it shows an old man, probably about my age, right? But still, he's reminiscing about 2020, when he was a young man in 2020. And those days, how it was, there was a secret enemy floating around. It was a vicious killer. And the whole world was gripped basically it was kind of sounding like World War II. It was like the same kind of mood that somebody would be looking back to, like World War II. And we were called upon to do our part to suppress this enemy. And we were asked to do absolutely nothing. And it shifts to a scene of the young man in his room on his couch, just kind of bored. and it ends with, be a hero. And just don't do it. Just stay at home. So it's not a difficult thing for us to do. It's not like we're called to enter an army and go out and fight, on the battlefield. All we have to do is wear a silly little mask sometimes, and keep a little distance, and hopefully it won't stop it, but it slows it down a bit, and it helps. It helps. Every little bit helps. Just like that's the same. Anyhow. That's not our topic today. Our topic is Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, everything in relationship to devotional service, in one sense, is the Bhagavat. But today we're going to be continuing our reading, and we're going to be continuing to hear about the big question of the day. What is the question of the day? Who remembers? What's the question of the day we've been hearing? Yes. Why? Why did Parikshit Maharaj do what he's doing? What was the circumstances? So, we're going to continue this fascinating question. Very, very logical question as it's being brought out here. So we're going to be reading from the first canto. It's chapter 4, text 11, and I guess we don't have it written up, so you're all whoever has a device that, or a book, the old-fashioned device called the printed book, they can chant along with this. So it's text 11. Okay, now I have to use my device to shed some light here because my eyes are very weak. Namanti yad pada niketam atmana Shivaya hantya dhanani satrava Katam savira sriyamanga dustyajam Yuvaishatot srashtam aho sahasubi Namanti yat padaniketam atmano Shivaya haniya dhanani satrava Katam savira sriyamanga dustyajam Yuvaya shottot srashtum ahosas sahasubi. Others? Manayat padaniketam atmana Shivayani yadhanani satrava Kadam saviram sriyamanga dushjajam Yuvaisatos touchtumaho sahasubi Ladies, Katam savira sriyamanga dushjajam Namanti, bow down. Yatpada, whose feet. Niketam, under. Atmanaha, own. Shivaya, welfare. Haniya, used to bring about. Dhanani, wealth. Shatrava, enemies. Katam, for what reason? Saha, he. Viraha, the chivalrous. Shriyam, opulences. Anga, oh. Dushtyajam, insuperable. Yuva, in full youth. Aishata, desired. Uchrashtum, to give up. Aho, exclamation. Saha, with. Asubi, life. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. He was such a great emperor that all his enemies would come and bow down at his feet and surrender all their wealth for their own benefit. He was full of youth and strength, and he possessed insuperable kingly opulences. Why did he want to give up everything, including his life? Purport. There was nothing undesirable in his life. He was quite a young man, and he could enjoy life with power and opulence. So there was no question of retiring from active life. There was no difficulty in collecting the state taxes because he was so powerful and chivalrous that even his enemies would come to him and bow down at his feet and surrender all wealth for their own benefit. Maharaj Parikshit was a pious king. He conquered his enemies, and therefore the kingdom was full of prosperity. There was enough milk, grains, and metals, and all the rivers and mountains were full of potency. So materially, everything was satisfactory. Therefore, there was no question of untimely giving up his kingdom and life. The sages were eager to hear about all this. Om Agyana Timrandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Bangalangayati Kishinjat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Shri Chaitanyeshwara. Hare Krishna. So we're getting closer, but the questions are coming further. How is it that such a wonderful person, such a powerful person would give it all up? The previous verses and this verse are there to give us a sense of what was being given up. What was he giving up? It was not like, well, there are some examples in our own tradition of devotees who have either desired or attempted, or even in one particular case, actually giving up their lives. The first case that comes to my mind is Sanatana Goswami. Now, Sanatana Goswami also demonstrated the giving up, the surrendering. He also had, along with his brother Rupa, they had great position. They had plenty of wealth. They had power, prestige. But they gave it all up for the service of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Still, when Sanatana Goswami returned from Vrindavan to see Mahaprabhu, he had to pass through the forests, and by contact with the unsavory elements of the forest, he contracted a disease which produced terrible sores all over his body, which used to ooze a foul, pussy sort of liquid. When he arrived in Puri, He felt so dismayed at his condition because he felt, how I can even approach Mahaprabhu. To begin with, because of my service in the Mohammedan government and my abandonment of my strict Brahminical status, I am an outcast in the eyes of the temple of Lord Jagannath. So I do not even consider myself, I am not even qualified, not that I am not. He fully accepted that the temple of Jagannath has been established in this pure realm. I am not qualified to enter. Haridas Thakur took the same position. So thinking like this, but then thinking that not only can I not see Lord Jagannath, but I came for thy Lord, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but how can I present myself? How can I even how can I put myself close to him in such a condition? How can I do this? This body, this useless body, is standing between me and being with my Lord. Better I give it up. Better I give it up. In this way he was thinking. He has a little bit of proclivity towards this intensity. Wasn't it he also that wanted to throw himself from Govardhan? It was Raghunath that wanted to do that. Okay. So the Goswamis in general seem to have some. Because Raghunath is another example of giving it up. We'll get to that. Mahaprabhu wouldn't accept Sanatan's feeling. Why? What was his response? Mahaprabhu's response was, "You have no right to think like this. That body doesn't belong to you. You are my surrendered servant. That body belongs to me, and I have plans. I have plans to use your body for the promulgation of Krishna consciousness, writing literatures, discovering, uncovering the holy places of Sri Vrajadham." But he had some reason. Parikshit Maharaj, on the other hand, from the external perspective, has no reason. We've been hearing this. He had everything. So from the external perspective, why give it up? Raghunath Das Goswami, as we were just speaking, was in a similar position. Raghunath Das was born, as they say in English, with a silver spoon in his mouth. That is the saying in English. Born with a silver spoon in the mouth. Not an ordinary spoon, a silver spoon. His father, is it Govardhan Majumdar, I think? Is his father's name? Majumdar, a Zamindar. I don't know exactly what Majumdar means. Anyone knows what Majumdar? Like a Zamin is land, Zamindar is a holder of land. So he was a tax collector. So he was one who was employed to collect the taxes from the zamindars, and he gets a percentage. He gets a percentage. And there's a whole story about how there was a little, hiding of that, but not by Govardhan, but I think his brother, Hiranya, wasn't it? Hiranya Mazumdar? Yeah. Yeah. So, anyhow, that's a whole other story. But Raghunath, from his very childhood, became attracted to Mahaprabhu. In his early childhood, he had association with, what is his name? Acharya, something Acharya? Balaramacharya, isn't it? Balaramacharya? Yeah. Yadunandan was his initiating guru, but Balaramacharya, who introduced him to Thakur Haridas. So he was immersed, he was hearing about the Lord, he was hearing about the Sankirtan movement, he was hearing about Krishna as a young man, and all the wealth and the opulence of his father, who was rolling in money, so to speak. He had nothing to worry about. Was not at all attractive. He goes to Shantipur and meets Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and wants immediately to go with him. But sensing some greater mission, Mahaprabhu tells him to stay at home. By this time, his parents are getting very worried that he was ready to run away already, and they could sense he was going to run away with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, he could run away. They kept guards on him. Nityananda arrives in Panihati, calling for Raghunath, and then I can't remember the sequence, how he chastised Raghunath for keeping himself and ordered a punishment. You must feed all the Vaishnavas. So in this way, he maintained and growing until finally, through the blessings of Nityananda, he was able to escape and go to Puri and meet with Mahaprabhu. But his mood of giving it up wasn't over. Initially, because he was found out by his father where he was, so they sent some money to at least maintain him, and he used to use that money to feed all the Vaishnavas. But he felt again that I'm maintaining this connection, and he stopped receiving that. So how does he live? He does madhukari, he accepts something, and he said, that's also too much. Finally, he's living simply on the rejected rice from the temple of Jagannath. So Raghunath is in our line exemplifying also this intense mood of giving up. Vairagya. All of the Goswamis demonstrate this. And here we have Maharaj Parikshit. When he hears of his curse, although it's been pointed out a number of times by devotees in our discourse, how he had the power, well, certainly to ask, and it is the Munis is Angir. No, Angir. What was the name of the Muni that whose son? Shringi. Shringi's father is Samika Rishi. I'm only able to do any of this speaking here by spending a half an hour or so before the class reading, and I have that long of a memory that I can remember things for an hour or so. But other things, especially names escape me. So sometime down the road, if I forget your name, and it's just me. It's nothing to do with you. So anyway, he could have pled his case, not even pleading his case. These sages, they were all ready to free him from this. There's no question that he was forced to accept this curse. Rather, he saw it as the favor of the Lord. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, again, this is half an hour memory, so tomorrow you ask me to tell you the verse number, I won't be able to do it. But I can do it right now. 1088.8, okay? And I wish I could, someone else may know, it ends, Anugranami Harish. Anyway, I wanted to print, I didn't have time this morning. 1088.8. Anyhow, the gist of it, I know what it says. The question has come. The question has come, and this is, Krishna is answering the question. And the question has come, how is it that people worship Lord Shiva for gaining the power and the wealth? And so we find this. Ravan is a great example of one who worshipped very intensely Lord Shiva in order to obtain power and wealth. Common people do so. They worship Lord Shiva especially. Why don't they worship you? Why don't they worship Krishna? And Krishna explains that, well, I'm not like Shiva. Shiva is very easily pleased. He gives so many benedictions. But I have a different purpose. My purpose is to give, I'm just extrapolating here, to give the real wealth. So those who I favor, I take away their wealth. I take it away. In our community, we have such a wonderful example of this response, this relationship, in our own Srila Prabhupada. In around 1952, I believe it was, Srila Prabhupada had been moving forward with his plans. Now, Srila Prabhupada, as we know, received the order, the instruction, actually a request from his spiritual master, but he took it as an order to spread the Krishna consciousness movement in the English language and in the Western world. He took this and he contemplated, how can I do this? So he devised his plan. His plan was, because he's a householder, and he doesn't feel that it is appropriate that he should receive money from the mission. In the case of his godbrothers, in Bon Maharaj and there was one other, I believe, who went to London, they were supplied with quite considerable funding. quite considerable, good amount of money they were given in order to try to establish this mission, which was so important. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was so intent. This must go. It is Mahaprabhu's own statement. Prithvitte achi chatto nagar ari gram sarvatra prachar hoive moranam. He is saying this. It will Prithvitte jatto nagar adi, every single town, village in the world. My name, the holy names of Krishna, will be heard. As we've heard from Srila Prabhupada, Mahaprabhu could have done this himself. The fact that he didn't do it means that he wanted us to do it. He gave it to us as our service. He gave us this opportunity to do this as service to him. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he felt this. It is our service. We must serve Mahaprabhu in this way. We have to spread the chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra through every town and village of the world. It must be done. He was meditating like this. And he knew it would be done. How will it be done? And he sent his disciples he felt had the right kind of intellectual capability, speaking capability to penetrate. And when they returned unsuccessful, it was his desire that they would make a beachhead and he himself would go. And they come back empty-handed. Srila Prabhupada felt, I will do this. I must do this. It is my order. I must do it. Or at least I must try. But I need money. I need money. I'm not going to take it from the mission like I need to. So I'm a good businessman. I'll make the money. And he was. He was making money. Very well, doing quite well. On the road, he said one time, I could have been major industrialist, a Tata, Birla, whatever type of, in India, if that was, but that wasn't the plan. That wasn't the plan. He's doing okay. But he needs to get started. So the opportunity comes in Jhansi to create a start, a beginning, the League of Devotees. So his attention is there. He's spending time, several months he's sitting there just organizing. Meanwhile, his pharmacy in Allahabad is being operated by who he felt were trusted employees. And one day, he's sitting in Jhansi and a telegram arrives. I believe his son was also there helping. Everything is gone. Everything has been looted. All the cash, inventory, it's all been looted. And what was Srila Prabhupada's response? Anugrahami Hari Yach Taddanam Shanai. He felt Krishna's mercy. Krishna's mercy. Krishna must be so kind on me. He's relieved me. And thus began a series of events which leads to his leaving his home, a series of events that leads him to Vrindavan, a series of events that lands him in New York, not with a bank account and a bank balance and money to spread Krishna consciousness, but with $7 and a trunkload of books. This was Krishna's arrangement. This was his favor on Srila Prabhupada. To highlight the power of pure devotion. To highlight the opulence of detachment. When we speak of Bhagavan, we say that he has 6 opulences. Now, 5 of them are quite recognizable, right? Beauty, strength, fame, wealth, wisdom. And then we get renunciation. Renunciation is an opulence. How is that? How is being detached, being renounced, such an opulence? Here we see in the life of Srila Prabhupada how that opulence, that detachment, that surrender, because what is the meaning of detachment as an opulence? It is an opulence because it means that you feel so connected to Krishna, who has everything, that you don't feel any attachment, personal attachment, that I must have this or that or anything for myself. What do I need anything? I am Krishna's, and Krishna has everything. So why do I need anything? Krishna will supply. And in the case that we see with Srila Prabhupada, Krishna supplied. He moved in this way with feeling that Krishna was using him. His first prayer on his arrival in Boston, he wrote this beautiful prayer, exclaiming his feeling of incapability. How can I do this? But somehow, he says, somehow or other you have brought me here. Now I am just like your puppet. And like a puppet in your hands, if you've brought me here to dance, he says, make me dance, make me dance, make me dance. And so he did. He danced his way into our hearts. Now, we also at that time were in that same sort of giving up. Many of us. I mean, I was a member of that generation that Srila Prabhupada encountered in the Lower East Side. I also was raised, not all of us had the comforts of a wealthy family. My family was not wealthy, really wealthy, but there was nothing ever, we had everything. Anything that we would want. There was never any sense that of need. And my path was also very well, chalked out. All the money was there to put me into college. My father's a scientist with my grandmother is a wealthy antique dealer, has got plenty of money to, if I wanted to go into business, I wanted to go into this or that. Everything was all there. Yet when I looked at them And I looked at the society in which what they were espousing as being the aim of life. I felt that this is empty, shallow. It all ends at death. And as so many of our generation, we heard the call, the call of the gurus of that day, Timothy Leary and Allen Ginsberg and Richard Alpert, to turn on, tune in, and drop out. Drop out. So we heard that call and we dropped out. I surrendered to my parents. I went to college for 1 year, but I didn't even attend a single class, maybe 2 classes I attended. Went to live in the forest. Left that, went to a commune or a small community in New Mexico where I started making my own clothes, and then that was, who needs clothes anyways? And so that began another chapter. And in this way we thought, oh yes, we're getting away. We're getting away. But we weren't really getting away. The other day, one gentleman who's writing a book about ISKCON, he asked me, was there something about that time, that especially that Srila Prabhupada was able to get this movement going because in this hippie generation, because he was, 30 years or so. He didn't live in that time. And of course, America was also different than other countries. I don't think India was going through the same thing. And I said, yes. We were looking for the way out. We were looking for the way to get out. Just like Parikshit Maharaj here has been offered, he's been told, you're getting out. You're getting out. For most people, the way out is death. That's all they know. But they don't know where they're going. So we wanted the way out, not out into some unknown, but out into that heaven, that Eden. There's a famous song of that time. We've got to get back to the garden. You remember that song? Anyway, Crosby, Stills, and Nash. They sang a few songs that sort of epitomize the mood. We've got to get out. We've got to go home. We've got to get back. Get out of this world, this phony, fake world full of hate. Because that was the other characteristic that we were seeing all around us. We were seeing a world of hate, a world in which, for no real reason, we were sending our armies over to a small little tiny country in Southeast Asia, Vietnam, to slaughter children. For what? We're seeing a world in which white and black, because of the color of your skin, you become an object of hate. So much hate that for the slightest transgression, you could be lynched by a mob. And the people who did so would get off scot-free. This was the state of the US of A in the 60s. We wanted out, But how? Where do we go? And here comes Srila Prabhupada saying, I'm out. Come with me. Here's the way. To leave this world. To leave this body. Not by dying, not by committing suicide. One could think that Parikshit Maharaj is just, in one sense, suicidal. He could have escaped. In fact, as it's saying, why did he give up? He's giving up everything, including his life. He is, in fact, giving up his life. He's accepting the curse so that he can get out and go home. And he does so by going home now, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So that by the end, it's simply just giving up this body and being home. Prabhupada gave us that path, the path out. So we followed. Those of us who were lucky enough to hear and to meet him and to taste, because he gave us the taste of it. Not that he just talked about it, he gave us through kirtan. Through kirtan. Golokera Premadhan Harinama Sankirtan. This Harinam Sankirtan has come down from Goloka to take us back to the place where it is constant Sankirtan. I think some of us were talking about that, how the place of Goloka is said that every word is a song. Every step is a dance. So what does that mean? It's kirtan, right? It's always kirtan. Always singing, always dancing. That's what we do in kirtan, right? When we were talking, the devotee was saying, I wonder what the dancing is like if everything is extraordinary. So we have this way out. And Parikshit Maharaj is demonstrating. It begins with detachment. We have to give up. We have to surrender. Surrender meaning we have to come to the state where we have to give up all hope of happiness in this world. To consider that this project, this material enjoyment project that we took up countless from, without beginning. Anadi karma phale. We took up this project to enjoy the material world. We have to come to the realization, to the state, that even we get to be Parikshit Maharaj with all the wealth, all the kingdom, everything at our disposal, still, it doesn't work. The sages are asking. Parikshit had everything, but he gave it all up. Why? Because it doesn't work. You can have it all, but it won't give you satisfaction. It won't give you happiness because it won't give you love. You can't get love from all of this. We have to give it up and embrace the one who owns it to begin with. We don't actually have it to give up also. That's another point. It belongs to Krishna. So our giving up doesn't mean that we set it aside and we have nothing more to do with it. Yukta Vairagya. Srila Prabhupada gave us, the formula. Yukta Vairagya, that we accept the opulences of this world to use for Krishna. That's the opulence of renunciation that we aspire for. And that is our path, our way home. Hare Krishna. So thank you. We have some time for reflections and comments. Little time. We're actually over the 9 o'clock time, I'm sorry. But we can 5, 10 minutes if there are some questions or comments. Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for a wonderful class. Prabhu, we just wanted to hear about your first encounter with any service related to Srila Prabhupada and which year it was. So can you please tell about something about that? And the second...
Well, I always answer this question because it comes up all the time. It's a common question. By saying that I met Srila Prabhupada first in his books, because I think that's really what we have to, the proper answer, because it was a meeting. I felt like it was a meeting of a person that I believed by hearing and reading his words is a person that actually knew God. So, but in this, sensual, physical way, I only met him first when I was initiated in 1971. So that was my first meeting. And it was a short encounter, called up to the, we listened to his speaking and so on. I had come from another city to New York to receive initiation, and I think, as I recall, I only actually came like that day, and or maybe the day before. Was there for initiation and went back. So it didn't have much except for, your name is Pancaratna Das, 5 jewels. That's it. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, one more question I had. As you told that in 1960s there was a move of giving away or coming out, but nowadays we see specifically US youths, and now they are into a type of complexity, like superior complexity. They feel like they are the best, and they won't feel like hearing from authority or anyone. So what do you think to be like the approach for them to actually give out Krishna consciousness, or somehow to impress upon them this Krishna consciousness? What you feel like?
How to spread Krishna consciousness to the youth of the West today? Yes, it's a fact that the world has changed over the years. So many gurus and philosophies and so on are now floating in the marketplace. And the idea has arisen amongst many, many people that to be spiritual, but not religious. And to be what they call postmodern, which means that, the truth is what works for you. And so just you figure it out yourself. So there's a resistance to authorities and so on. But that means that the main ingredient, and I don't say that it was really that much different for us in the 60s. We also had very strong hesitation, resistance to authority. It wasn't and religion in the mainstream sense. We were very, very eclectic and just whatever works. do your thing, so to speak. Therefore, we need to feel it. We need to experience it. We need to not just hear something, but we need to feel it. And that's why Golokera Premadan, Harinama Sankirtan, the Sankirtan is so powerful because it gives us that experience of Krishna. And when we experience that, then we become interested to know more about what is this? What's going on here? And then we can begin to hear. There's another experience that also gives us. Anyone know what that is? Prasadam! So the same formula, basically. It's not much different today than it was in the 60s. Kirtan, prasad, little philosophy. The difference mainly today is how we get it to people. It's a little different now. You know, we have the internet, for example. We have social media. We have, and there's a difference in terms of what they see. Also, the other big difference is what does somebody see when they explore. In the 60s, there was Prabhupada. And then, you know, slowly there became some temples. And those temples were filled with young, white people, mainly, right? Now, except for Russia is different, but most temples in our movement are now not filled with young white people, but they're filled mostly with middle-aged Indian people, professionals. And so for the youth of non-Indian youth in many countries, there's a difficulty to identify with this, to feel like there's something here for me. So that's another challenge that we have, is we have to create environments where the atmosphere is not a temple, so to speak. And Prabhupada saw this too. In the 75, 70, he started to write about, okay, we have temple, we need now these neutral environment, restaurants, for example. Restaurants and reading rooms. He talks about creating reading rooms. He wanted to create places where you could go with your shoes on, right? Even in the beginning, he had this vision. And when they bought the temple in Los Angeles, it was an old church. And the main part of it, the church part of it, was set up with wooden, what they call pews, which are, you know, these benches. And there was the front part where there was the preacher would preach from. So he told the devotees, let that be, keep it as it is. Make the temple, there was another room, big hall for gatherings, that can be the temple. Keep this as it is. Let people come in here with their shoes and hear, do kirtan, have the experience. So he had this understanding that people need to have a familiar environment. Now, as our movement progressed, most of our temples didn't have, we had regular temple rooms and so on, but we were a little, you know, similar to the youth and the people of that day. And, you know, there was some ability to identify a little bit, although it started to become perhaps a little strange. And therefore, we found a rise of, you know, anti-cult movements, etc., that felt we were just too strange. So this is our challenge now. We have kirtan, we have prasadam, we have basic philosophical concepts like you're not your body that are easy to, and that help. We have a system of meditation. People are interested in meditation. We have so much to offer. We need to couch it and present it in a way that's easier to digest. So, unless there's any really Is that Guru Dakshin over there? Okay. Just a few minutes because we're way over time. It's already 13 minutes past 9.
Yeah. Just a Pancaratna Prabhu, thank you very much. Just a little inspirational message from you about, because you've touched on this, about inspiring the youth. Now, this movement must move on and Prabhupada disciples are disappearing and Prabhupada has disappeared. But there is Vani and Vapu. So the Vani, I conjecture, is more powerful than the Vapu. Can you give us some inspirational comment about that for our youth, that they should dive into whatever media it can be? Thank you very much.
Vani and Vapu. Yes, we don't have, we don't have Srila Prabhupada's body here to be able to interact with, to serve, to see, to be delighted by. We do have a lot of video. Very fortunately, we have a lot of video, we have a lot of pictures, so we can get some of that Vapu experience. We can especially hear about those who saw Srila Prabhupada and experienced that Vapu, because it is an inspiration, and it's accessible by the grace of modern technology. All of us, whether we met Srila Prabhupada personally or not, can meet him by hearing about him, and we can appreciate the transcendental quality of his physical being and his physical activity. But as Prabhu has been commenting, Srila Prabhupada himself was stressing that more important than that, because we can love and appreciate, but in order to serve, we need to hear. In order to truly serve, we need to hear the message that Srila Prabhupada has given us. We have to hear his words, his Vani, his instructions to become Krishna conscious and to spread Krishna consciousness. And that associating through service, hearing his instructions, that association is available to everyone equally. And we have to, depends on us. I was reflecting the other day, in fact I think I spoke about it in the disappearance, that how Srila Prabhupada was so focused. He commented how Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's, he says it also in his purport, the Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on the verse Vayavasayatmika Buddhi Ekeha Guru Nandana, how he comments that the import of this is to accept the order of one's spiritual master as your life and soul, as your very life. And because Srila Prabhupada did that so 100%, he always felt the presence of his Guru Maharaj with him. He always felt it because he had accepted the order of his Guru as his life. What's closer to you than your life? What's closer to you than your life and soul? You are the soul. And to accept that the message, the instruction of one's Guru is your life means that you are with your Guru. So when I reflect how sometimes I feel that I'm not feeling Srila Prabhupada's presence in that way, I can only say that it's because I've not fully accepted his instructions as my life. Hare Krishna. I pray that I may do so. As this physical life begins to become less and less useful, I'm urged But it shouldn't require that. Don't think that you have to get old, in order to surrender to Krishna. No, you can surrender now. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Hare